canine German Shepherd puppy was hit and left freezing in the snow. One driver's kindness changed everything. He was just a baby, shaking, bleeding, and alone in the snow. The cars passed without stopping, one after the other, as his tiny body lay still on the side of a frozen road. Once meant to become a proud canine protector, he was now broken, abandoned, and forgotten. No one knew where he came from. No one cared where he ended up. Until one man saw him and hit the brakes. What that driver did next would not only save the puppy's life, it would start a journey neither of them could have ever imagined. This is a story of second chances, unshakable bonds, and how one act of kindness on a freezing night melted hearts around the world. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and turn on notifications. This helps us bring more real and inspiring stories like this to you every week. Let's begin. The snow was relentless. Flakes fell in thick, heavy sheets, blanketing everything in silence. Trees stood stiff and white, their branches drooping under the weight. The back roads just outside of Billings, Montana, were nearly invisible now, twisting ribbons of ice and danger. Most drivers had already given up and gone home. The few still out there were gripping their steering wheels tight, praying not to slide off the road. But something was lying in the snow, small, still, dark against the white. It wasn't a fallen branch or a tire scrap. It was breathing. Barely. A German Shepherd puppy, no more than 6 months old. His back leg was bent awkwardly, and the fur on his left side was matted with blood. The snow beneath him was stained pink. His chest rose in short, panicked puffs. He didn't cry. He didn't whimper. He had no more strength for that. Earlier that morning, he had been in the back of a transport van with 3 other canine and training pups, all heading to a new facility. But when the van hit a patch of black ice, the back doors flew open. He was thrown from the vehicle and rolled into a ditch. The driver never noticed. No collar, no ID, no chip, nothing that said, "I matter." And so, the world kept moving. A few cars passed. One slowed, but didn't stop. The puppy blinked slowly, eyes heavy with frost. He didn't understand why the humans were gone, why no one came back, why his leg felt like fire and his body like ice. He was fading. Until the lights appeared. A red Ford F-150 came around the corner, tires crunching slowly over snow. The driver was a man in his mid-30s, eyes tired from the long day. His name was Jack Monroe, a local mechanic headed home after staying late to help a stranded woman with a frozen engine. Jack squinted through the windshield. At first, it looked like a shadow. Then, he saw the ears. He slammed the brakes. The truck skidded slightly before stopping, headlights illuminating the small, broken figure lying just inches from the road. Jack jumped out without even closing the door. The cold slapped his face like a hammer. His boots sank into the snow as he rushed over. Oh God! The puppy wasn't moving much. Just a faint twitch. Jack knelt beside him and reached out slowly. "It's okay, buddy. I'm not gonna hurt you." The dog's eyes opened just a sliver. They were a rich brown, full of fear, confusion, and something else, trust. Jack slipped off his coat without a second thought and wrapped the pup gently inside it. The animal let out a soft, almost inaudible whine. "You're still with me," Jack murmured, scooping him into his arms. "Hang on, all right? Don't quit on me now." Back in the truck, Jack turned the heat all the way up. The puppy was barely conscious, but alive. His breathing was shallow. Jack looked at the nearest vet clinic on his phone. It was 22 miles away, and in this weather, that could mean life or death. He pressed the gas harder than he should have. "Come on, buddy," Jack said, glancing at the bundle on his passenger seat. You didn't survive that fall just to die now. The snowstorm thickened. Visibility dropped. Jack's fingers gripped the wheel until his knuckles turned white. Beside him, the little German shepherd whimpered once more. His paw shifted slightly beneath the coat. "You're gonna make it," Jack said again, this time more to himself than the dog. As the truck roared down the frozen highway, Jack had no idea what kind of dog he had just picked up. He didn't know about the training, the K9 program, the future this pup was meant to have. All he knew was this: he wasn't going to let him die, and neither of them knew it yet. But this was only the beginning. The fluorescent lights of the emergency vet clinic buzzed above Jack as he burst through the doors, snow still clinging to his boots and the sleeves of his shirt. He didn't wait in line. He didn't speak. He just held the limp bundle of fur tightly in his arms and shouted, "He's hurt! He was hit! I think he's freezing to death." The receptionist didn't hesitate. "Treatment room 2, now!" A vet tech rushed over and took the puppy from Jack's arms with surprising gentleness. Jack's hands were still warm from the tiny heat the pup had left behind. "Stay here," the tech ordered as she disappeared behind swinging doors. Jack stood in the waiting area, his heart racing in his chest, his body suddenly cold without the little dog pressed against him. He ran a hand down his face and sat on one of the plastic chairs. It creaked beneath him. The room smelled like antiseptic and tension. He looked at his phone. No signal. Just snow piling outside the glass windows. After what felt like forever, a short, silver-haired woman in scrubs came out. Her name tag read, Dr. Hensley. "You brought him in just in time," she said, her voice firm but kind. "He's in bad shape. A broken leg, possible internal bleeding, and he was dangerously hypothermic. We're working to stabilize him now." Jack nodded. "Is he gonna make it?" Dr. Hensley looked at him for a long second. "It's still touch and go, but if you hadn't picked him up when you did, he'd be gone by now." Jack let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. "Do you know who he belongs to?" she asked. "No," Jack replied. "There was no collar, no chip, nothing." She frowned. "Strange. He's young, but not a stray. His paws are clean, coat trimmed. Looks like he was being cared for. Until today." Jack nodded slowly. "I thought maybe he fell out of a vehicle. I saw blood on the road." Dr. Hensley teed. "Could be. Maybe a transport accident. Or someone dumped him." That last possibility hit Jack like a punch. "Can I see him?" he asked. She hesitated, then nodded. "Just for a minute. He's sedated, but sometimes dogs need to know they're not alone." Inside the room, the pup lay on a small heated table, his leg now wrapped in a soft cast, IV lines in his paw. His fur was still damp, but his chest rose and fell in slow, steady rhythm. His head turned slightly when Jack stepped in, those brown eyes blinking open just enough. Jack stepped closer, his voice barely above a whisper. "Hey there, tough guy." The puppy didn't move, but his tail gave a faint flick. It was almost nothing, but to Jack, it felt like a miracle. "I don't know where you came from," he said quietly, kneeling beside the table. "But you're not going anywhere now, not while I'm breathing." Dr. Hensley stood in the doorway, watching silently. Jack looked up. "If he pulls through, can I take him home?" She nodded. "If no one claims him, and he makes it through the next 48 hours, he's yours." Jack looked back at the pup. "Then I guess I'm staying right here." And he did. He slept in the waiting room that night, curled in his jacket, one eye on the hallway that led to the recovery room. The snowstorm raged on outside, blanketing the world in silence. But inside, something had already shifted. By morning, the sun peeked through the clouds. And in treatment room 2, the puppy opened his eyes fully for the first time and let out a soft, barely audible woof. It wasn't much, but it was a beginning. Jack stood at the door with a coffee in one hand and hope in the other. This little canine warrior wasn't giving up, and neither was he. For the next 2 days, Jack barely left the clinic. He brought food from the diner across the street, but most of the time, he just sat in the chair outside treatment room 2, reading old magazines and listening for footsteps. The snowstorm had cleared, and the roads were open again, but he wasn't going anywhere. Inside the room, the puppy, who the staff had nicknamed Scout, was improving slowly. The swelling in his leg had gone down, and the IV drip kept him hydrated. He still couldn't stand, but he wagged his tail now when Jack walked in. Just a little, but Jack noticed. On the 3rd morning, Dr. Hensley approached with a clipboard. Jack sat up instantly. "How is he?" he asked. "He's responding well," she said, smiling gently. "He's eating. His vitals are stabilizing. I'd say he's out of the danger zone." Jack finally allowed himself to breathe. "I can't thank you enough," he said. Dr. Hensley shook her head. "You're the one who saved him. We just followed your lead." Jack looked through the small window into the room. Scout was lying on a blanket now, his head up, ears alert. His eyes followed Jack wherever he went. "You've got a fighter on your hands," she added. But then her expression changed. "There's something else," she said, quieter now. "Someone came asking about a lost canine puppy this morning." Jack's heart dropped. "What do you mean?" "A man came in asking if we had any German shepherds brought in recently. He didn't give a name. Said he was with a private security firm, transporting canine trainees from Texas to Idaho. He claimed one of them went missing after a crash during the storm." Jack frowned. "Did he describe Scout?" Dr. Hensley nodded. "Age, size, markings. It matches." "Did he ask to see him?" "He did." I said no. Jack blinked. "Why?" "Because something felt off," she said, folding her arms. "No ID, no paperwork, no badge. He was in a hurry. Didn't even ask if the dog was okay, just if he was still here." Jack's jaw tightened. "Do you think he's legit?" Dr. Hensley hesitated. "I think it's possible Scout was being trained for something more than police work. And I think that man wasn't here to rescue him. He was here to reclaim property." Jack stared at her, his stomach churning. "He's not property," he said. "No," she agreed. "He's not." Later that afternoon, Jack sat beside Scout again, stroking his soft ears gently. "You've been through a lot, haven't you?" he whispered. "Maybe you were born into the wrong world, buddy. Maybe it wasn't about loyalty or bravery for them. Maybe you were just a number." Scout blinked slowly, his gums twitching. Jack looked at the little cast on his leg, the stitched wound on his side, the tiny metal scar beneath his ear. "He deserves better," Jack muttered. That night, Jack made a decision. He walked up to the front desk and spoke firmly. "If no one comes back with proof, I want to adopt him, officially, permanently." The receptionist nodded. "We'll start the paperwork. There's a waiting period, but with the report you gave and no legal claim, you'll have priority." Jack walked back toward the recovery room, his chest tight but hopeful. But as he turned the corner, he froze. Standing in the hallway was a tall man in a black jacket, clean cut, military posture, and he was staring through the glass at Scout. Jack stepped in front of him. "Can I help you?" The man turned slowly. "That's the pup, isn't it?" "Who are you?" The man gave a cold smile. "Someone who needs to take back what was lost." Jack didn't move. "You're not taking him," he said, voice low. The man raised an eyebrow. "He doesn't belong to you." Jack narrowed his eyes. "Maybe not yet, but he doesn't belong to you either," the man smirked. "We'll see about that." and with that he walked away, disappearing down the hall. Jack stood frozen, every muscle tense. He turned back toward Scout, who now stood shakily on 3 legs, tail wagging, eyes locked on him. Jack stepped inside and knelt. "No matter what happens," he whispered, "I'm not letting anyone take you from me." And deep down, he knew this wasn't over. It was just the beginning of the fight. Jack didn't sleep that night. He stayed in the chair next to Scout's recovery bed, one hand resting gently on the pup's side, feeling the slow, rhythmic rise and fall of his breath. Outside, the wind had picked up again, rattling the windows. But Jack wasn't worried about the storm anymore. He was worried about the man in the black jacket. His voice kept echoing in Jack's mind. "We'll see about that." There was something in his eyes that didn't feel like concern for a lost dog. It felt like ownership, control. Scout stirred in his sleep, letting out a tiny whimper. Jack leaned in closer. "You're safe now, buddy," he whispered. "I'm not going to let anyone take you back into whatever hell you came from." Scout's ear twitched, and his paw nudged against Jack's wrist. Even in sleep, he was reaching for the man who had pulled him from the snow. By morning, Jack had made a decision. When Dr. Hensley arrived at the clinic, he met her at the front door. "I want him released into my care," he said. "Today." She raised an eyebrow. "Are you sure he's ready?" "I'll handle the meds, the wound cleaning, the therapy. I've built things more complicated than a splint. I don't want him here if that guy comes back." She studied him for a long second, then gave a slow nod. "We'll fast-track the papers." A few hours later, Scout was wrapped gently in a soft blue blanket, lying in the passenger seat of Jack's truck. His eyes were wide, alert, but still full of trust. Jack drove carefully, keeping one eye on the mirror. No black SUVs, no strange shadows. Just the quiet, snow-covered roads of Montana stretching out ahead. His cabin sat about 20 minutes outside of town, tucked into the woods. It was small, nothing fancy, but warm, safe, and quiet. Just what Scout needed. Inside, Jack laid him down on a thick dog bed by the fireplace. He stoked the fire higher and set out food and water. Scout tried to stand, but his back leg gave out. He didn't cry, just looked up with frustration. Jack crouched beside him. "You'll get there. One step at a time." Scout gave a soft woof in reply, as if agreeing. The next few days passed in a rhythm of healing. Jack changed bandages, gave medication, and even cooked soft chicken and rice for the pup who, despite his injury, had the appetite of a wolf. Scout began putting weight on his good legs, limping from yet one room to another like he owned the place. He followed Jack everywhere, into the workshop, onto the porch, even the bathroom door. Jack found himself talking to him more and more as if Scout already understood. And maybe he did, because Jack wasn't just healing the dog, he was healing too. It had been 2 years since his last deployment, 2 years since the explosion that ended his career and took 3 of his friends. Since then, he'd lived in silence, avoided people, buried his uniform in a box. But now, he was up before dawn again. Moving, building a ramp for Scout, cooking meals instead of microwaving leftovers. Laughing, actually laughing when the pup tripped over a slipper and barked at it like it was a threat. Then, one evening, Jack went out to grab wood from the shed. And stopped. Tracks, fresh. In the snow, boot prints. They circled the cabin, paused at the windows. One even stopped by the truck. Jack's blood went cold. He rushed back inside and locked the door. Scout sat up instantly, sensing the change in his energy. He let out a low growl. Someone had been watching them. Jack turned off the lights, grabbed his old hunting rifle from the closet, and sat by the window, staring into the darkness. He wasn't afraid. He was ready. No matter who came for the dog, they'd have to get through him first. The following morning was quiet. Too quiet. Jack hadn't slept much. His rifle leaning against the window, Scout curled beside him on the rug, one ear constantly twitching. The boot prints in the snow hadn't faded from Jack's mind. Someone had been out there, watching, waiting. But they hadn't come back. At least, not yet. Jack spent the morning reinforcing the locks on the doors, adding wooden bars across the back window. His cabin wasn't a fortress, but he knew how to make it look like one. Scout followed him room to room, his limp more controlled now, his eyes sharp. "You're getting stronger," Jack said as he tossed another log into the fire. "But we're not out of the woods yet." Scout wagged his tail once. By evening, the skies darkened again. The snow had started falling. Light at first, then heavier. Jack fixed dinner and shared some with Scout, who was finally standing on all fours, wobbly but proud. Jack sat on the couch, Scout resting against his leg. That's when he heard it. A crunch. Snow. Outside. Too close. Jack froze. Then came another sound. A click. Metal. Jack's eyes darted to the front door. Scout stood up, growling deep in his throat. "Stay," Jack whispered. Then the front window shattered. Glass flew inward, and as a figure in black dove through the side, Jack grabbed Duro's rifle and dropped low behind the couch, heart pounding. Scout barked ferociously. "Get the dog!" a voice yelled. Two men were inside now, both dressed in dark tactical gear. No badges, no identification. One moved toward the hallway. The other raised something, tranq gun. Jack didn't hesitate. He fired once, not to kill, just a warning shot into the ceiling. The blast echoed through the small cabin like thunder. "Back off," he shouted. But the men didn't flinch. One lunged forward, trying to reach Scout. The dog snapped at his arm, teeth bared, growling like a wolf. He didn't care that he was injured. He didn't care that they were bigger. He was fighting for Jack, for his home, for his chance. Jack tackled the man near the fireplace, knocking the tranq gun out of his hand. They crashed into the table, sending dishes flying. Jack took a punch to the ribs, but landed one of his own, hard enough to send the intruder stumbling back. The second man grabbed Scout by the collar. "Don't!" Jack yelled. Scout twisted and bit down on the man's forearm, his teeth sinking in. The man screamed and dropped him instantly. Jack grabbed the rifle again, aimed low, and fired a round into the floorboards, right between both intruders. "Out! Now!" This time, they listened. They backed up, bleeding, cursing, disappearing through the broken window into the blizzard outside. Jack ran to the door and bolted it. Then he turned, breathing hard. Scout stood in the center of the room, trembling but upright. He had defended the home. He had protected Jack. Jack dropped to his knees and pulled the pup into his arms, not caring about the snow or the glass or the chaos. "You're not just a dog," he whispered, voice cracking. "You're a soldier." Scout whined softly and licked his chin. For a long time, they didn't move. When the police arrived an hour later, called by a neighbor who heard the gunshots echo across the forest, Jack told them everything. The men were gone. No tracks, no IDs. But something was clear now. Scout wasn't just a lost K-9 trainee. He had been part of something bigger, something dangerous, something worth sending men into the snow to steal him back. One of the officers looked at Jack and asked, "You still want to keep him?" Jack looked down at the pup curled beside him, one paw resting on his boot. "I don't just want to keep him," he said. "I want to protect him, just like he protected me." But deep down, Jack knew. Whatever Scout had escaped from wasn't finished with him yet. The news traveled fast. Within 24 hours of the break-in, the local station had picked up the story. Veteran saves injured K9 puppy from armed intruders. A photo of Jack standing on his snow-covered porch with Scout at his side, rifle slung over his shoulder, ran on the homepage of the town's website. It wasn't long before national headlines picked it up too. People were fascinated and outraged, not just by the fact that someone had abandoned a trained K9 puppy in a snowstorm, but by the fact that someone was willing to break into a home and steal him back. Jack hadn't asked for the attention. He hated it, actually. The phone rang nonstop. People sent donations, blankets, treats, even offers to adopt Scout. He said no to all of it, because Scout wasn't up for adoption. He already had a home. Dr. Hensley showed up at the cabin 2 days later, walking carefully through the snow with a heavy bag over her shoulder. "Brought more meds," she said. "And something else." She reached into her coat pocket and handed Jack a small black tag. Scout's name was etched on it in silver letters. Except, it didn't say Scout. It said Valor. Jack looked up at her. "You picked a new name?" he asked. "I thought you picked it," she replied. "It was how you described him in the report. You wrote, 'This pup showed more valor than most men I've ever served with.'" Jack turned to the German Shepherd sitting obediently by the fire. His leg was healing. He was stronger now, leaner, faster, alert. Still limping, but every day the limp faded more. "Yee," Jack said, clipping the tag to the collar. "It fits." The name stuck. From that moment on, Valor wasn't just a dog rescued in the snow. He became a symbol, a survivor, a protector. Jack received a call from someone unexpected the following week. "Sergeant Monroe?" the voice asked. "Just Jack now," he replied. "This is Commander Ellis. I run the K9 Tactical Division based out of Fort Carson. I read your story. I think we have a few things to discuss." Jack listened carefully. Commander Ellis wasn't just interested in Valor. He was concerned. Apparently, several dogs from the same transport had gone missing. The driver claimed the records had been destroyed in the crash. 2 of the other pups had been recovered. But not all. "We don't believe this was an accident," Ellis said. "These were not just police dogs. Some were trained for covert operations, highly valuable." Jack felt his stomach drop. "You think someone staged the crash?" "It's possible," Ellis replied. "And if that's true, Valor might be a target again." Jack looked over at the pup, now curled up by the door. "He's not going anywhere," Jack said. "Not without me." Commander Ellis paused. "We'd like to help you. And him." Over the next few days, Ellis sent specialists. They reinforced Jack's cabin with surveillance cameras, motion detectors, and advanced locking systems. They also brought Valor training tools, equipment to sharpen his instincts, rebuild his strength, and test his memory. And the dog responded, better than anyone expected. "He remembers everything," one of the trainers said, shaking her head in disbelief. "Commands, signals, even scent tracking. It's like he never left the field." Jack stood nearby, watching Valor follow a complex series of hand gestures without hesitation. "You think he was born for this?" he asked. The trainer smiled. "I think he was born to survive it." That night, Jack sat on the porch with Valor at his feet. The stars shimmered above the pines. The snow had begun to melt, leaving soft patches of earth poking through. He reached down and scratched behind the dog's ears. "Looks like we're not done yet, huh?" Valor licked his hand and gave a soft bark. Something was coming. They both felt it. But this time, they'd be ready. The night it happened, there were no warning signs, no strange cars, no sounds in the woods, just silence. Jack had gone to bed early, Valor curled up by the bedroom door as always. The winter had begun to ease its grip on Montana, and the air was crisp, but not biting. For the first time in weeks, Jack slept deeply, until the alarm went off. A sharp beep, motion detected, back perimeter. Jack was out of bed before he was fully awake. He grabbed the rifle from under the bed, slid the clip in with muscle memory, and turned toward the door. Valor was already up, ears forward, body still, eyes burning with focus. A different dog now. Not just heeled, trained, alert. The monitor on the wall showed two men moving silently behind the cabin. Same black clothes, same arrogance. They came back. Jack whispered, "Stay behind me." But Valor pushed past him, silent and swift, despite the remnants of his injury. Jack opened the side door just enough to slip out, heart hammering against his ribs. Snow crunched softly under his boots. Then, movement. One man near the shed, the other circling toward the front. Jack took aim at the one closest and called out, "You don't want to do this!" The man froze, then ran. But the other didn't. Instead, he reached for something. Metal, sharp, fast. Valor lunged. Out of the shadows, he moved like lightning. No hesitation, no pain. He tackled the man to the ground, snarling, jaws locking around his wrist with precision. The man screamed. Jack rushed in, weapon raised, ready to back him up. The intruder rolled, trying to throw Valor off, but the dog held steady. It wasn't a brutal attack. It was trained, calculated, enough to immobilize, not kill. Just like a true canine would do. Jack kicked the man's weapon away and shouted toward the trees, "Get off my land!" The other fled, fast, cowardly. Jack knelt beside Valor, who now released his grip and stood protectively between Jack and the man on the ground. Blue and red lights flashed moments later. Sheriff's deputies swarmed the property. The man was cuffed, read his rights, and dragged to a squad car. The officer who had first responded weeks ago looked at Jack, shaking his head. "You were right. These guys weren't just thieves. They were black market smugglers, selling stolen tactical canines overseas. We've been tracking them for months, but we never had a location." Jack nodded. They wanted Valor back. "Not anymore," the officer said, glancing at the dog with a newfound respect. "He's earned his freedom." Jack looked down at Valor, who was now sitting proudly at his side, tail swaying slowly in the snow. He scratched behind the dog's ears. "What did I tell you?" We were ready. The weeks that followed were filled with peace. No more threats, no more fear. Just the slow, healing rhythm of normal life. Valor's leg was nearly perfect now. He ran, jumped, chased squirrels with terrifying precision. Jack built him a wooden obstacle course in the backyard, and the dog tackled it every morning like it was his mission. Then one day, Commander Ellis returned. He stood on Jack's porch with a document in his hand and something in his eyes that looked like admiration. "We've been thinking," he said, handing over a folder. "We're launching a new program, partnering retired veterans with abandoned or recovered canines. You'd be our first, and Valor would be the face of it." Jack flipped through the pages. Photos, training plans, testimonials. And then the last page. Official recognition, Valor, Canine Unit Honors, retired. Jack looked down at the tag on Valor's collar. The name he'd chosen. The name the world now knew. He smiled. "I think he's earned it." That night, Jack and Valor sat by the fire. No alarms, no danger, just warmth. Jack spoke softly. "They left you in the cold, buddy. But you didn't give up. You never backed down. You fought for your life. And now, you've changed mine." Valor leaned against him, eyes half closed, tail thumping gently. Not just a rescue dog, not just a survivor, a hero. If this story inspired you, remember, courage doesn't always come with a uniform. Sometimes it comes on 4 legs, with a scar, a second chance, and a name like Valor. Subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and share this story with someone who believes in redemption, loyalty, and the power of kindness. Jack and Valor's story spread across the country. Schools shared the news segment. Veterans wrote heartfelt letters. Children sent hand-drawn pictures of dogs with capes and eyes like Valor's, strong, kind, unbreakable. Jack never called himself a hero. He'd say, "All I did was stop the truck, open the door, and choose not to look away." But deep down, he knew the truth. Something inside him had been rescued that day too. And now, when Valor ran through the snow, no limp, no fear, Jack would smile. Because in every bark, there was gratitude. In every glance, there was loyalty. And in every beat of their journey, there was a love that would never break.